Batman the Knight, issue 1 is up next. Chip's got a book. The DC.
With art by Giandomenico, which I don't think I realized until I got it.
Joe, it's funny, I didn't even notice the name. It was just a few pages in. I was like, this looks like Giandomenico, and then I went, oh, it is Giandomenico.
Yeah.
So fair enough. That tracks. So that's kind of weird because I didn't really remember the solicit for this, to be honest. So I didn't even know what I was going into. I just sort of picked up a book called Batman the Knight. It could have been anything.
You just knew it was by Chip, and you were like, I'll read it.
Yeah. And it is kind of origin story-esque in that it's focusing on Bruce's. At least this issue is mostly the end of his high school years. And that's kind of the framing device is that we keep cutting back to him with Hugo Strange. He's a girl that he knows is recommended Hugo for therapy reasons because he has all this anger and he's going through all this stuff, and that's the framing. We keep coming back to that over the course of the issue, and obviously we know Hugo's susses anything.
That's the fun part of this issue is towards the end where it's like, oh, but Bruce knows he's sus as well.
Oh, of course, yeah. Bruce is figuring that out.
Because you think he's getting taken in, right? He's along for the ride. Mm-hmm. The Stranger's on pulling one on him, and he's not.
No.
Yeah, but instead, we get all this stuff where he's fighting at school, he's getting into scrapes, and it's for good reasons. It's like someone was picking on someone else, and he stepped in. So that fundamental part is there, and you get Alfred taking him home awkward from the police station, from the school, and then again at the police station at the end when it's the more serious thing. The reason he's in the organized fighting club. Yeah, I think. I mean, we can debate because we don't really know what this whole story is yet and what they'll take it. But there are things in this I liked as parts of to add to the origin. I particularly enjoyed there's a scene where he's with his kind of girlfriend, I guess. And they're on the car, and he basically says he wants to become a cop. And it makes sense that in his early life he might have had that thought at one point. That was the first the first version of him wanting to do good for the city was
He's basically Harry Potter, right? I'm gonna be a cop. You can't be a cop. You're too famous. Well, I just won't carry a gun.
I'll be the leader of the cops.
Yeah. It's very childish, Bruce, and Zdarsky kind of nails that.
But and her reaction, plays like that. But it makes sense that was his first thought. And she's like, "You have all these resources. You're this rich. You can't be a cop because you're too famous. But secondly, you could do more than that. Think bigger, right?" And that's kind of the mantra of this issue, and it's the way he ends it as well when he's leaving Hugo Strange's office. He's like, "I'm a way to think bigger."
He's haunted by this suit of armor, the Bat Knight.
Yeah, so it's just the idea that the knight in question here is this. So I mean, I could buy that this is going to jump ahead in time each issue, but the one running thread is going to be how this suit of armor plays into his psyche each issue or something.
Yeah. Real quick, can we also talk about how I feel like this is Zdarsky taking on all of those anytime someone wants to take a shot at Batman, which I love, we all know how I feel about Batman, but they'll always talk about the social implications of Batman running around Gotham.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this is uses money. That question.
Yeah, I feel this is Zdarsky going through and checking stuff off of that list. Like here, he talks about at the end of the car scene about the bully, right? He goes, "Oh, the bully from the academy, what about him?" She's like, "Yeah, he was a bully, but you tormented him in secret for the rest of the school year. You drove his parents to pull him out of the school. There's this darkness around you, and it's almost like this first self-awareness that he could do more. It's not just about dressing up as the Bat. He does have these psychological kind of aspects to him that are deep in there.
But I also like the idea that he does go too far with something and someone points it out and it's part of his learning, process.
Right, exactly. And that's what I mean. And then he's going to be able to know when to pull that back. You know what I mean?
It's very human, Bruce.
Because the other scene in this I really like. So I like the scene where he says he wanted to become a cop, and then she laughs at it, and the conversation, and the line she says, which is, "The world doesn't need another angry cop." Right? That's a really pointed line, in there, right? The other scene I really like is after Alfred's picked him up from the police station when he's in Fight Club, basically, is. Alfred goes off on him. He loses his shit, in an Alfred way, but he loses his shit and says, like all those people you were fighting, they're doing it because they're desperate. They're doing it because they don't know if they're going to make the rent, and maybe this will be worth the risk of like earning some money, as long as the hospital bills presumably don't take it all away, right? They're all desperate. They're all just trying to survive. But you've been given more money than you'll ever need. You've been given all these resources. You've been given everything. So like, why not prove that you deserve it? Why not do something with it? So there's kind of this constant like. If nothing else, this issue is basically all of these impulses that come to Bruce initially in those 5, 10, 15 years after the death of his parents. This is the story of him kind of like, making all the mistakes that one would probably make when they're an angry kid, which they'd be too cruel. Even if their heart's in the right place, they would think of the more violent option when they should think, no, this is why I should do it this way. There is an interest, like as much as part of me's thinking as I'm reading this, I'm like, do we need another kind of early days, like how this is how Bruce becomes Batman story?
I felt the same thing as I'm enjoying what I'm reading, so it was a weird thing. I was like, this is good.
But this is the thing, this is the point I'm getting to though, is that it's constantly kind of like picking away at details and questions that I don't think I've seen other writers address that much.
Yeah, it's him being flawed.
Even the awareness of Alfred being like, I've let you become a spoiled rich brat.
Right.
And that's like, usually we think of Alfred as the good noble father who did everything he could. And Alfred's like, do you know what? I could have done better.
Right. Well, and also when he's talking to Dana at the college and she's like, you got to go to class. He's like, no, I don't. It's chemistry. I've paid enough money here. They're going to pass me anyways. I'm going to go do research. She's like, but you're taking up a spot at school and you don't even want to be here. So it's pointing up that stuff too, that he is a spoiled brat.
I also, there's a line in here that is still very like Batman, where he says, tests and exams just slow me down. I'm here to learn. I'm like, that is such a Batman thing to say.
No, it is.
It's what you can see the Batman that he's going to become in there.
But
there's a lot of rough edges that need to be sanded away first.
Exactly, and I like that because I love a flawed Batman. I love a self-aware, flawed Batman.
It's actually, do you know what it is? It's taking Batman and saying, okay, no, but here's like everyone goes through a period when they're a teenager and younger where they do make a lot of mistakes. They think about things the wrong way before things click for them. This is actually one of the most effective pieces of writing that's ever done that to a major character like this, and said, here's them with all their flaws and all the troubleshooting, if you will, of like going through life before he landed on his morals and all these things.
An acknowledgement that he is not a perfect person that has always made the right choices. That he's not always been dedicated to this one singular goal of justice / vengeance.
And the one sort of fantastical thing is this recurring kind of vision of this suit of armor that's got a bat coming out of it.
Right. Which not just for that iconography, but I also feel like that's the clue that he's not letting Strange hypnotize him. Is like that's his anchor. Is this suit of armor that he keeps going back to, and it's going to end up being a motif. It
changes as well slightly. So when we see it at the end there, which is the physical one that's in Strange's office, right? It's slightly different to the version that we see earlier in the issue, in the Vision. In there, it's got a big like shield coming out of it, almost like a doorway to get to the insides. The helmet is again, it's got the same kind of basic core elements, but it hasn't got the grill that the last one has.
It almost looks like the destroyer armor from Thor.
Yeah.
It is fundamentally different, which is kind of interesting. The idea that it's the idea was there, but this is a specific version.
Well, I mean, it's the idea that ultimately he's going to become the Dark Knight, right? I mean, that's obviously why the title's been chosen and why the motif is all chosen. But like, if you're thinking about this story of him discovering who he really is and sort of finding himself and working out all these rough edges, the symbolism being, you were never going to just be a cop, you're going to be the Knight, right? And obviously he can't visualize that because he can't, like, he doesn't know how important Batman's going to be in advance. He doesn't, he's not even thought of the idea yet, but the idea that ultimately he was always meant to be something more, and like this visual motif. So like I can almost see like he's not going to wear a literal suit of armor, of course, and the bat suit, at least
I bet he wears it at one point.
I mean, maybe it does, but
I mean, I don't think it's going to be an actual armor, but this is his metaphorical.
If anything,
puts around Bruce Wayne.
It's an armor for his.
If anything, him being fascinated by the visual of a suit of armor is going to be the inspiration of wearing a costume of some kind, right? It's probably going to play into that choice.
Yeah, And then it's his armor for his psyche as opposed to the physical thing as well.
Yeah. Because typically it's like, okay, obviously the bat symbolism is always there, but typically it's like, well, it's like a ninja suit with the added bat motif, whereas this is maybe going to look at it from like, I know that even just the idea of wearing a suit with a mask and a costume is important beyond the theatricality of like scaring the criminals. It's about, you know, his version of a uniform, right? And that's an idea that's come up before.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot in there. There's a lot of things that it's doing really smart, and it's like, so I'm curious to see where it goes next. I'm assuming it's going to jump ahead in time and probably still be early Batman. Don't get me wrong, I don't think we're going to jump to like, you know, year 5, but
I think it's really interesting if you go to the back of all the books this week. It's got the advert for this.
Yeah,
and it's just like 4 characters. It's got Hugo Strange and Alfred, and okay, we've kind of seen them already. But then it's got Ducard, and it mentions how there's a string of crimes in Paris that'll make Bruce Wayne a suspect. So that comes in. And we've got this burglar character, Lucy Chesson.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if like Ducard's a big part of issue 2, because it just makes sense that would be soon. Like he was going to go off and train and do his thing.
Yeah, and then this this thief, the little text underneath it mentions that she teaches him the best way to catch a thief is to become one. So it's okay. We're going to see Bruce acquire these skills over. I think this is 10 issues, right? But it's going to be, not in the traditional sense. It'll be very much from this broken, perspective, and we'll probably see Bruce become better over the series. Yeah,
in a lot of ways, this is kind of taking that first half of Batman Begins and fleshing it out into like a full series. Because that was in there, the idea that he's going to sort of like become a thief to understand how it works and understand how to be desperate.
It was there as a nice little montage for that point, right?
Well, which works in a movie, but this is obviously wanting to like really explore the psyche of that.
But you can do like, okay, this is the thief issue, this is the detective issue, and you can go through various aspects as it goes on.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, this issue is him saying, the idea of being bigger is like, well, I have to like, okay, what do I want to do? So I mean, maybe it'll be another issue before he decides he has to go off and like learn and train and whatever. But
will each issue focus on a skill? Will there be like an issue where this is the disguise issue?
I did get a chuckle at those. Like, so Alfred, like when he comes back early on in the issue, he's emptied out the library. He's like, this was full of all the books that your parents got to learn and like improve their lives. So we're starting from empty, and you're going to add books to learn and improve yourself. And the idea being that this is better than all the fighting you're doing. But then later on, when he gets some books in, it's like how to do taekwondo, how to punch someone in the face.
Yeah. Although there's also the book on botany, which he uses to learn to get back at the kid.
Yeah. So it shows he's resourceful. It shows that he is good at learning things, if nothing else.
Yeah. But also, again, this being a flawed Bruce, he's taken that concept and he's twisted it. He's gone, all right, fine, I'll do it your way, but it's still kind of spiteful in the what he's done, there as a kid specifically.
Yeah. And if anything, I feel like this Alfred does deserve, like, maybe not an apology per se, but I feel like Zdarsky's probably going to have like because this is a strenuous relationship these two seem to have in this particular issue, and I do wonder if there's an acceptance of like what Alfred's done for him, and there'll be an acceptance on the other side from Alfred of who he's becoming later on in the story as he's becoming Batman or whatever.
Yeah, well, because now it definitely feels like he wants to make Alfred proud. I
don't know. There's clearly some semblance of a good relationship that maybe we haven't really seen in this issue, but Alfred calls him son at one point.
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, it's not like the worst I've seen portrayed. But
it's not like the Earth One relationship, for example.
Yeah, but I don't think for a second here that if Bruce at like 17 turned round to Alfred and said, "Hey, I'm going to become a vigilante," dressed as a bat, that Alfred is going to take it on.
I feel like Alfred's like, no, you're not. You're
go back to bed.
No, Master Bruce, you're my son. I care about you so much. He definitely have to do it in secret, and then Alfred's gonna find out and be pissed.
Yeah, which might still happen, and that might be a thing that we have.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know if this goes beyond when he becomes Batman at a certain point, or if it literally just ends with him like being becoming Batman properly for the first time, like. It's interesting.
There's an idea you could end this with, essentially the "I shall become a bat."
You could, you could, you could, and maybe it'll be written in such a way that you could fit it into year one, and it wouldn't like contradict any of it.
I mean, so far,
Yeah,
that's definitely on track that it could do that.
yeah. It just depends what Zdarsky's got planned for the rest of it, I suppose.
Yeah.
So, but it was good, and I guess we're all into it and reading more of it.
It was good enough.
I really liked it.
Yeah, I liked it. And I praised them as well for only showing like the quick visual of the gunshot and no pearls falling to the ground.
Yeah,
they do reference it, you know.
Yeah,
and I know we all complain that we've seen all this again, but if you're doing an early day story, there is an element of you have to have at least a little bit of that in there, right?
Yeah, but I like how Chip and Joe Domenico kind of tiptoe around that.
Yeah. I like the idea that he's thinking of this suit of armor. Like, yeah, like in theory, a night suit of armor would stop a bullet, at least a traditional, like a regular, 9mm bullet. Maybe not a sniper round or anything like that, but yeah. All right, Matt, what are you giving?
I'm giving it a 7.
All right, Connor.
I'm gonna give it an 8. And also, I'm annoyed at DC because stop publishing Batman books that I want to read. Because like, I want to complain for publishing too many Batman books, but they're good.
Yeah, I think I have to also go with the 8. Like, it's funny because like part of me's like another early days Bat story. I don't really need it, but then he kept making good scenes and good points and good things to explore. That
it is good, right? Especially on its own merits, it's good.
Yeah, so. Damn it, Zdarsky.